friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, and I'm here today to talk about coffee. Yay! Mostly how we prepare and brew our coffee. I do have a video on how we store it. I'll talk a little bit about that, but I still recommend you go watch the video on how we store our coffee, because I also give some other ideas of things that you can look into and the types you might want to store, and that could be very important to you. For example, some people prefer storing up green coffee beans that they roast themselves rather than pre-roasted beans like we do. So, but that's not what today's topic is about. It's about how we prepare it, and I want to explain why I think this is important. I'm not saying you have to do it exactly like we do, but just some things for you to think about for both the sake of your health and for the sake of being better prepared. And though I've been using other percolators, I have like total of two others that were stainless steel that I found at garage sales. I more recently, I think last year, bought this one because of the size of it. And I like having at least 2 coffee pots on hand, but only in stainless steel. So I don't even recommend getting the enamelware ones that are really popular for camping, and to also watch out for whether they be stainless steel or not, for any of the ones that have the lip on the bottom. Like we do have the ones stainless steel that are made more for using over an open fire, but they're not the best for using on a wood stove or any other kind of stove, glass top or whatever. And so I recommend, if you're looking for something to brew your coffee and you're not planning on always using an open flame, don't get that particular one. And then, as I said, stay away from aluminum. Pay close attention to the coffee pots you're getting. Going back to the old-fashioned way of brewing coffee by just using a percolator, it really takes very little more time, if any, than using an automatic drip coffee pot. And the reason I say get away from those, again, there's 2 main reasons. One is that the plastic tubing inside the coffee pot, that water is heating up and going through the plastic. And just for the sake of your health, you really want to stay away from using plastic in anything that's going to get very hot. And you know that water going through there is very hot. On top of the fact that trying to keep something like that cleaned out, there's a lot of junk and nasty stuff that can build up inside there, which would force you to have to run white vinegar through there to keep it from getting totally clogged up. But how often do people think to do that? And then you have to make sure you run plain water through there to get the vinegar out so that your coffee doesn't taste like vinegar. And that can be a real hassle. So who wants to really mess with that when it's so much easier just to scrub out a pot like this? Now, the other thing too is when you're shopping for a percolator, not only looking for one that's stainless steel, but making sure, this can be the trickier part, that the basket inside and the stem that holds the basket is also stainless steel. Unless you're just going to do cowboy coffee where you just put the coffee grounds straight into the water, which sometimes I wonder why I don't even just do that, because most of the time I still have to strain the coffee grounds out anyway. But the reason I bought this one is because this one holds about a ½ gallon. Most of the year we're brewing the coffee on the wood stove. And then during the times of the year that we don't have a fire going, but we have plenty of solar power, it gets brewed on a little hot plate that we plug into our solar power. This has a nice flat bottom, so that way it makes a good solid contact all the way across to our cast iron wood stove and our cast iron burners that we use on the solar power. And so that is much better than the ones with the ridge that I again said are actually meant for open fire use. But I still use that one. That one is great. Now again, I found that one at a garage sale. So initially what I was doing is I had this other coffee pot that was stainless steel that I found for $1 that was like this at the bottom, but it was smaller, but it didn't come with the stainless steel basket and stem with it. You know, I only paid $1 for it, but who knows whatever happened to the other pieces. So what I did was the other one, the camp one, all stainless steel, that had the stem and the basket, that I used inside the flat bottom percolator to brew the coffee, and then I'd pour it into the campfire one. And I didn't bring that in here because it's currently sitting on the wood stove, and this one's really hot because this was on the wood stove too, perking. So I just wanted to leave the other one on there so it could stay hot if Patrick needed to come in and get some coffee. So anyway, that one with that rim on there, it's actually perfect to just set on the corner of the wood stove, or even kind of tilt it up onto a trivet where part of it is touching the wood stove if the fire is really hot, where we can keep it hot without continuing to keep cooking it. And so that one's perfect for that. So I use that for storing the coffee in and keeping it hot. And this one actually gets used for brewing the coffee. And that way I also have that backup pot. So when we empty out the one that we're working through, then we just pour this coffee into that pot, and then I can have another pot brewing if I need to. Such as last night, we had company coming over, so I wanted to have plenty coffee because they're like us. They do enjoy their coffee, though I don't usually drink it in the evening. And I also want to stress too that if you're able, try to go with organic. We only buy organic coffee beans. I found the best prices at Costco. The very best price I've seen are on the Kirkland brand ones, especially if you can buy them in the store, because you're going to save a few dollars buying it in the physical store. But you can also order those online. There's also the Rainforest brand that I have quite a bit of that I've stocked up on. They come in bigger bags. I think you can still get that in the Costco physical store, but you can also order it online, and I've been doing that for a long time. But when they made the Kirkland brand available online, it is a better price per pound, and I find it to be just as good, and so I started stocking up on that. And yes, I do just keep them in the bags that they came in. They stay back in cool storage, so I don't worry so much about the plastic. Never had any go rancid, and I have about a 3-year supply of coffee beans. I just keep rotating though, so I don't just let them sit back there for a long term. If I was going to do that, I would actually seal them up in Mylar bags that I would then put in a bucket and tighten that down and put it somewhere else. But I just keep rotating through the bags of coffee. And again, no problem with it going rancid. But for some people, if you live in a hot climate, especially a persistently hot climate, and you have a hard time keeping any kind of cool storage area in your home, that may not be the best choice for you. You may want to freeze your coffee beans. But again, you can also look at the green coffee beans. They can last longer in storage than the pre-roasted ones. Now, the other reason I say going this way isn't just to get away from the plastic tubing and the hassle of cleaning out an electric percolator. It's also having something that you can use in a power outage situation. So even if you're using this on an electric range like back here normally to make your coffee, if you have a power outage, having something like this, you can just pull out, even if it's just that little single burner stove that I've mentioned in several videos, especially recently, that, you know, little propane, just light that up, put that on there and brew your coffee on there. This will work on that. Or any other type of camp stove, a double burner, or even on your barbecuer. So this can work in any situation, whether it be electric or a wood stove or whatever it is you have that can be a good heat cooking source. So that's the other reason why I recommend this. And I also recommend that you have some kind of a manual coffee grinder on hand if you're storing whole beans, which again, I also recommend storing your beans in a whole form. So even if you're getting pre-roasted, you should still be getting them in the whole bean form. They're going to have a longer shelf life that way, and they're going to taste better and fresher when you grind them up fresh for using. So how I do it, I actually have an electric one here that's I'm currently grinding up some coffee to fill up this jar right here. Once a week or so, I don't know how long it takes us to go through a jar. Maybe it's 2 weeks. Then I'll grind up a bunch of coffee and keep it in a quart jar. So it's not super fresh. I don't like to do it every day because I have to do it early in the morning, and usually Patrick is still sleeping because I get up long before he does. So I want to have it done and ready to go. So I save that to do it a quart at a time and then work through that quart, and then I grind up more. This is where this is an ice bucket. I use this to keep the coffee beans in that I'm currently working through. So every time I open up a new package from storage, it gets poured into here. Then I just pull this out and work through that. One thing about stuff like this is I can still use this on solar power. We get enough solar power that we can, even in the dead of winter, run some things. But since this is something I'm not having to run continuously, I usually have enough solar power. I can do that on there. However, if you don't have any kind of solar power or generator, it is important that you have a manual way that you can grind up those coffee beans. And by the way, if you're interested, I actually have two different manual coffee grinders. This one was a gift from my father. It's vintage. I don't remember exactly how old it is. I did a video on it. I had to do some research to find out. It is an Italian brand one, and it was a gift from my father quite some years ago. And this one actually I keep now more for decor, but I was using it for quite a while until I came across the one in this picture here that has a bigger hopper. So I can actually grind more coffee beans at a time in that. It's a cheaper one, but I only paid a few dollars for it at a garage sale. This one's cooler because it's older. But that other one, Patrick, what he did was actually affixed it to that same table as my grain mill's on. There was a time where I was actually grinding flour and coffee at the same time, like this. And I don't do that anymore because now the grain mill has got the motor on it that Patrick had refurbished and hooked it up to the grain mill. So I run that, and boy, it's a lot faster than having to do it by hand. I don't mind doing it by hand, and I don't mind grinding my coffee by hand, but with how busy things became after starting the YouTube channel, it is nice being able to have something that can get the job done a lot quicker for me, so I have time to get the other things done, like doing research for more videos or shooting more videos. Anyway, side note there, sorry, but you know, I like to throw those things in every so often. So anyway, I'll link to this video just if you're interested. So I think I covered everything I was going to talk about. So if you're interested in this particular coffee pot, I had to look for a while to find one this size that was all stainless steel with a glass top, not plastic. By the way, you can also get replacements to these, and they're not too expensive. I actually did buy a pack of 2 just to have on hand because, you know, I tend to be a little bit klutzy. I've broken them before, so you do got to tighten it down every so often. But anyway, I'll link to this below, as well as these backup glass pieces here, just because this is a really nice size. Now remember, since it's all stainless steel, it's not going to be cheap like your aluminum ones or even your enamelware ones, which aren't really cheap, but it's more expensive than those. So that way you can take a look at it and see what you think. You might be able to find, if you don't like shopping on Amazon, at least you can look at it. I think the brand name is GSI if I remember, but you can at least see what the brand name is, read the reviews on it. I personally love this one, but if you're not an Amazon shopper, at least you'll know what it is, and then you can look and see if you can find it in your local store that might have camping type supplies. Sometimes that is where you can find these type of percolators, rather than in your standard kitchen items section. It's usually going to be found in camping wear. Like our local store does carry this brand and in the camp section, but they just did not have one this size. They only have the smaller size when I was wanting to go up to the bigger size. So anyway, I hope that helps, and it just gives you a few ideas. And please share with us down below, what are your favorite ways to brew your coffee? What do you use? I know some people really like the French press. I've never looked into it, never tried it, so I really don't know anything about it, but some people love that method. So go ahead and share with us all that information down below, even how you store your coffee beans. Do you pack them up a certain way? Do you put them in buckets? Do you freeze them? Do you store green? Do you store pre-roasted like we do? Because all this information is great for people to compile together and figure out how best they want to go about these different things, to be both prepared by stocking up and prepared by taking care of their health by having healthier options, and being prepared by having more off-grid ways of doing things in case of a power outage. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.